You're watching the show that puts Mid-Michigan news in focus. This is Focal Point. I'm Josh Sidorowitz. Coming up on Focal Point, whether you're for this guy or this guy, there's plenty of students here on campus working hard in the final days before the election to make sure it's their candidate that's getting your vote. We'll have that story coming up.
Tonight on Focal Point, I'll tell you what the East Lansing Public Library is doing to save its books.
And a string of shootings on Interstate 96 leaving many drivers uneasy. We've got the latest on the police investigation.
Focal Point starts now.
Hello, I'm Josh Sidorowitz.
And I'm Chloe Hill. Welcome to Focal Point.
Police in several counties are leading a multi-agency task force to help identify a suspect in a string of 24 shootings in the past 2 weeks on and along the I96 corridor that's between Lansing and Detroit. Focal Point's Lauren Gentili has more on the recent attacks.
Police officers are littered up and down I-96, and this time they're not looking for speeders. They're interested in finding the so-called I-96 shooter who has shot at 25 cars throughout 4 counties. Ingham County Sheriff Gene Rigglesworth says instead of being worried, drivers need to be aware.
Just be vigilant. If you're traveling on the road and you see something that looks like it could be related to this, you see somebody shooting at somebody, anything that would be helpful to us, give us a call.
The shootings began on October 16th in Oakland County and have since spread to Livingston and Ingham County. The shooter went silent for more than a week before striking twice last Saturday, injuring a Delton man.
The recent shootings have made some drivers alter their routes, completely avoiding the I-96 corridor altogether, and some have resorted to taking country roads.
We have extra patrols, state police have extra patrols, all the other departments involved have extra patrols in these general areas. But I would reassure people that we have these extra patrols out there.
Some students are still taking I-96 because they feel the police are keeping them safe.
It hasn't stopped me from taking 96. It's my shortest route to school, and I like short routes because of gas money.
Police say the public can help make the process faster.
Tip reward was increased to $102,000. So it's loosened the lips we thought it would, and that's a good thing, and we're working on those tips as we speak.
The shooter is said to be a man driving a dark 1998 Oldsmobile Alero or a 1998 Toyota Camry. This sketch was released last week, but no arrests have been made. For Focal Point, I'm Lauren Gentili.
And there's now a $102,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest.
Superstorm Sandy has taken a toll on the East Coast, causing flooding, property damage, and several deaths. But what were the effects here in Michigan? Reporter Joe Khalil has that story.
Superstorm Sandy pounded the East Coast earlier this week, leaving over 150 people dead and millions without power.
You could conceive of a stronger storm, but the place it hit and the number of people that were affected by it was just massive.
Alan Srock, a postdoc researcher with the geography department here at MSU, says the strong winds, cold weather, and on and off rains we've been feeling in Michigan this week were no coincidence.
The strongest winds were pretty much directly tied to the circulation from Sandy.
Joe Mitchell, a recent MSU grad, moved to New York this year for work. He says he never thought in a million years he'd be dealing with hurricane-like weather.
Well, to be honest with you, I really didn't know what to expect because from Michigan, I've never had to deal with any hurricanes. So I just listened to the news people and bought some water and some food just in case.
He says nobody expected it to be as bad as it was, and he's one of the lucky ones who hasn't lost power. But with power comes responsibility.
We're allowed to work from home. Currently, our building is out of power.
Okay, Joe, so no power in the building. You're working from home. What about some of the other employees who don't have power and can't work from home?
A lot of the people that I work with have been coming to my apartment to work from home, too, because a lot of people don't have power. So.
But if there's any silver lining when it comes to Sandy, Srock says the forecasters seeing the storm's intensity as early and as accurately as they did definitely saved some lives.
It was a huge benefit to have that because people were able to prepare not just hours in advance, but days in advance.
For Focal Point, I'm Joe Khalil.
Now, before all the rain and cooler temperatures here in mid-Michigan this past week, we experienced an unseasonably warm day. Focal Point's executive producer Bob Gould took a trip to campus to see how people enjoyed the day.
The calendar says it's the end of October. But on this day, try telling that to Mother Nature.
Beautiful. 75, sunny, awesome.
Awesome enough for this second grade class from Cornell Elementary to take their science lesson outside to the 4-H Children's Garden at MSU.
We got lucky, really fortunate. It's really helping us have a hands-on experience with nature.
Whether it was a time for studies or a time for a stroll,
she has like every kind of flower you can think of.
Eve Bonta couldn't resist taking advantage of a day like this.
So I spent the morning raking leaves. So this is the reward. It's actually getting to come out and enjoy nature.
And realizing it wouldn't be smart spending the day inside.
We went out to lunch and decided we'd like to go for a walk, and we certainly didn't want to walk inside the mall or anything. And
well, the other thing that's out here in the garden.
This MSU tourism class decided to ditch the textbooks for a real tour today. Michael Suarez didn't mind moving the lecture outside.
Because the weather was so nice today, it would be good to come outside and see the garden instead of being inside in labs and stuff like that.
And although these students may be well past the second grade, they're never too old to have a little fun,
explore, play,
and learn a little bit too.
Lots of plants that we probably have never heard of, so we're getting educated.
Let's go!
And while all these garden goers are enjoying the day,
it's a blessing.
They all know there aren't going to be many more days like this.
I mean, I guess because winter's around the corner.
For Focal Point, I'm Bob Gould.
Boy, definitely missing that weather right about now, but with the remnants of Sandy out of the way, the election forecast looking pretty good too, with temps in the 40s and little or no precipitation expected. Should be good weather for getting out to the polls around here in mid-Michigan. And with just days until the election, student volunteers with both the Romney and Obama campaigns are out in full force on campus to make sure their fellow students get out to vote.
Well, I'm a volunteer with a brief 3-question survey regarding the upcoming election.
Will Stahl has been volunteering with the Romney campaign since August.
Okay.
And the MSU junior said he got involved because the implications of this election couldn't be greater.
For people, especially my age, we've had enough time of sitting on the sidelines and letting people in Washington decide our decisions, so just wanted to stand up and fight for a cause I believe in.
Stahl and other Republican students have been making calls and going door to door in the East Lansing area in what he calls a grassroots effort.
This year especially, it's not 2008, this is 2012, and it's just way too important for people to sit on the sidelines, and slowly but surely students have recognized that.
And the Romney camp isn't alone. In these final days leading up to the election, there's plenty of students here on campus who are also working just as hard to make sure it's the president who's claiming victory this November.
I think Michigan State is very excited. We've registered over close to 5,000 new students this year as new voters to East Lansing, which is an amazing number.
Raleigh Van Fossen is an Obama supporter who says the big push now in the last few days before the election is to make sure voters are educated on where and how to vote.
There's a lot of first-time voters on campus, and there's a push to sometimes scare away those first-time voters from voting, and we want to make sure that they feel like they can vote, that they're honored to vote, and they're excited, so we want to allow them with those tools.
And while the two campaigns might fundamentally differ on most issues, there seems to be one thing they can all agree on.
That people are interested. This is a big year. 2008 was huge, but 2012 is the same. There are a lot of things at stake, and a lot of students care.
If you're going to have the opinion, go out there and help. And I'm not saying that just for Republicans. I'm not saying that for just Republicans, Democrats. If you believe in something, just get involved and do something.
So regardless of your party, come November 6th, it's all about letting your voice be heard.
And the Michigan Senate race is coming down to the final push. We got a chance to talk with Republican Pete Hoekstra and Democrat Debbie Stabenow a few questions.
Create the opportunity. I don't know with a high degree of certainty that those jobs will come flooding back, but if we create the right circumstances, they may come back.
So we're in a race that we can win and that we need to win. Manufacturing looks different than it did 30 years ago or 50 years ago, but we have to make things. We have to make things, grow things. I think it's absolutely critical we work together. We can have different beliefs, certainly different ideas. That's what it is in a democracy. But if you can't sit down and listen to other people and be willing to compromise and get things done, it doesn't matter. And that's what people in Michigan want us to do.
If you're going to be successful in Washington, you have to absolutely be able to be willing and be able to cross party lines if you want to be successful.
A new millage proposal was added to the ballot for this November election. I went to the East Lansing Public Library to find out what cuts have already been made and how asking for 1 mil will help them get back to where they used to be. Here's that story.
It's 1930.
Lynette Van Wagenen spends many of her days volunteering at the East Lansing Public Library.
If you love books, it's outstandingly fun because you get to just look at books all day long and touch books all day long, and so it's like Christmas.
She spends her time in the friend shop organizing and selling used books.
But just seeing this huge wealth of books that come in from this reading community that is East Lansing, and knowing that we're helping them find new homes at really great prices, it's just outstanding.
But even though this generates some extra revenue for the library, it isn't enough to keep it running as usual.
Okay, with the library itself, we have reduced staff since January of 2011 by 10 positions. Our materials budget, which are our books, our DVDs, periodicals, has been reduced by 33% just since last year.
To help increase the funds, the library director has proposed a millage of 1 mil that would last for the next 10 years and would generate roughly $860,000 each year. This means that a homeowner of a $100,000 taxable home would pay about $8 a month or $100 a year. The East Lansing Public Library would not be a library without the books on the bookshelves. So, what this millage would do would be maintain these services along with others for residents in the community.
The money will come directly to the library through the taxpayers, and what the city used to transfer to us from the general revenue fund will stay with the city so that they can pay for core city services. And then the library is protected.
I am voting for the millage because I think the library is awesome. The services they provide are for everyone, and I know that everyone in East Lansing benefits from it.
But even if the millage doesn't get passed, the volunteers in the friend shop will be working harder than ever to reduce the deficit.
If it doesn't get passed, our monies will be used more for basic services that used to be able to be paid for, through tax dollars.
If voters pass the millage, funding would return to the previous levels in 2011. If this millage is not passed, the library director will make further cuts to staff and library materials.
And as mentioned, the election is right around the corner, and there's been plenty of debate watching here on campus. The most recent and final one, sponsored by the MSU Debate Team. They had students out there to help them give more information and better understand the issues and candidates. Focal Point's Edith Joe has that story.
Times the next day on YouTube. Both the Republicans and the Democrats want to win tonight's debate.
It's the night of the last presidential debate of the election season, and the MSU Debate Team is getting involved.
To provide nonpartisan expert commentary about each of the presidential and vice presidential debates.
It's also the final part of a 4-part Spartan presidential debate series,
which has been a series of panels sponsored by the MSU Debate Team, taking place around the country.
The team wants to help students better understand the key points between the two candidates.
We're going to have a panel of MSU students and coaches from the debate team.
That the most important thing is really for neither candidate to screw up in these debates, and that what they want to accomplish from it is not necessarily just to win, but to avoid the bad sound bites that end up on YouTube the next day.
Each student received a ballot before watching. They choose the winner of the debate based on the options on the ballot. Even though many students already knew who they are going to vote for, they think the watch party is helpful, especially watching with a group that's informed.
I think the people who watch the debate tonight will have informed opinions about how each candidate feels about foreign policy, and that can help influence their vote.
You get to hear what other people have to say, and not just you or your family.
Around 80 students and faculty attended the event. For Focal Point, I'm Edith Joe.
And Focal Point, along with WKAR and the MSU School of Journalism, will have full coverage of election night on November 6th. You can check out WKAR.org for live coverage.
Well, coming up next, why MSU faculty are worried about getting to work on time while a potential pollution problem may be fixed.
Yep, and an historic MSU facility gets a facelift and a celebration.
They've been called leaders, lifesavers, and world changers. They're also called Spartans.
Welcome back. We've got changes in campus parking and gas prices.
And that's right. Those stories top our campus headlines this week. Edith Joe has the details. Edith?
If you think parking is tight on MSU campus now, just wait. As part of the MSU 2020 Vision Master Plan, 2 parking lots on campus will be turned into green space. This is a parking ramp behind Bessie Hall. More than 550 spots and a parking lot next to shop complexes will be closing.
It's in very bad condition and needs to be removed.
Mike Rice, the assistant chief of MSU's police department, who is in charge of the removal project, said they won't be rebuilt as parking lots, but instead be new green space.
Also, there are concerns about stormwater runoff that close to the river and the pollution potential. So removing that parking lot and turning it into green space will cure that problem.
While many aren't surprised about the project, some faculties believe this change will make it more difficult to park.
This decision is going to affect a lot of people who work in the administration building and also the computer center in the other buildings around.
Faculty are having different opinions towards the parking removal. Some of them are thinking it's really inconvenient for the upcoming winter, and others are wanting to see more green space on campus.
It will be a bit of an inconvenience when it closes. I hope that they construct adequate parking near enough to this place that for those of us who need to get into work.
Which is going to make it very difficult for us to basically get to our offices on time. We don't know where we would be parking.
There's nothing wrong with having more green space. You know, if it means that it takes me 5 more minutes to walk to work, that's not a problem.
The lot 37 will be closing right after the shell construction is done, and the Bessie ramp is still waiting for further assessment. The parking office is considering a couple of locations on North Campus where a new ramp can be built. It's turning out that Twitter isn't just for the birds anymore. A new study conducted by MSU education professor Christine Greenhall argues that college students who tweet as part of their class curriculum are more engaged in their course. The study called Twittercy, tweeting as a new literary practice, examined the recent growth in Twitter users among teens, which has doubled in the past 2 years. Greenhall found that Twitter encourages collaboration and that 140-character limit teaches students to be more concise writers too. She said she encourages her students to interact directly on Twitter with the authors and researchers they're reading about.
And that just makes the student understand that this is an ongoing conversation. When we read a piece of research, it's not the finite answer, it's that it's an ongoing conversation with other experts. So yeah, it connected the class out into the real world.
There are currently 200 million users on Twitter, which was first created back in 2006. Locally grown, sustainable food is now closer to campus cafeterias than ever before. The Bailey, located in the Brody neighborhood on campus, is officially open to the public. Inside, you can find all kinds of herbs and other greens that are being grown to be used in the Brody cafeteria. The waste from the cafeteria is composted and put back into the greenhouse as soil. This project was created for students to learn about sustainable and locally grown food right in their backyard.
I think it's very important that we have these physical spaces for students to interact with these technologies and the components that will become part of our future local food and distribution systems.
This greenhouse is one of many on MSU's campus that help farmers grow food all year round. The MSU College of Music dedicated their new renovated recital hall this past week with a faculty concert of All-American music. The multi-million-dollar facility includes many improvements that line up the facility to professional performance standards, including state-of-the-art audio and visual capabilities. The hall was used for recitals, concerts, and rehearsals for more than 70 years before the renovation. The building is named Cook Recital Hall in honor of lead donor Byron and D. Cook.
It's absolutely thrilling to see how they thrive in here and how they appreciate a place that's this beautiful in which to perform. It's very exciting for both of us.
D. Cook is also a former member of MSU's Board of Trustees. That's what's happening on campus. Back to you, Josh and Chloe.
Thanks, Edith. Now, not only are temperatures going down this week, but so are the gas prices.
Yep, and Michigan's average gas price has dropped nearly 30 cents since last week, and AAA is expecting to see the prices continue to fall. This is the first time in 5 months that Michigan's average price is below the national average. Some consumers are wondering if the drop is tied to the presidential race. Others don't mind the price break and would like to see it continue.
I guess it's nice as a consumer. I appreciate the lower price, but I guess, I mean, I'm sort of from an environmental perspective, I wouldn't mind having higher gas prices.
Nationally, gas fell 9 cents last week to an average of $3.67. The price is expected to drop a national average of $3.35 by late November.
All right, up next on Focal Point, 50 East Lansing businesses open their doors to some of their future customers and give them more than just candy this Halloween.
And in sports, Coach D'Antonio stays positive in light of MSU's early season losses.
The day we created a cancer drug that saved millions of lives began like any other day. And when we developed a new way to purify the world's water supplies, it might have been a Tuesday or possibly a Thursday. And whether it's alternative energy or better food safety, the next time we help create a solution to one of the world's great problems, we'll be proud. Then we'll get back to work. Michigan State University. Spartans will.
Welcome back. I'm Lauren Gentili with this week's sports. The Detroit Tigers made it all the way to the World Series before being swept by the San Francisco Giants. Reporter Joe Khalil was out on campus asking students how they felt about their team's season this year. Joe?
If you were a Tigers fan, this last weekend was a sad one for you, getting all the way to the World Series and then getting swept in 4 games. We talked to some Spartans to get their recap on the season.
It was a little disappointing. I thought we could have done better, finished higher, and then I was hoping we could win, but not get swept at least.
To be disappointed that they lost the World Series, yeah, it sucks. But I mean, still the Tigers made it to the World Series.
So what did you think of the Tigers season?
I thought the season had a lot of ups and downs, and I thought they were going to pull through in the end, but I don't know what happens. I think they had too many days off.
Yeah, I think we did a lot better than I thought. I thought actually they weren't going to make it to the playoffs, but until the last week or so of the season, they did really good. They beat the White Sox, beat the Royals. So I guess for the whole year, I think they did pretty well.
I was really proud of them because halfway through we were below 500 at the All-Star break, and we came back. So I was really proud of them.
So you can see a lot of mixed reactions, good and bad, but as the old adage goes, there's always next year. Guys, back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Joe. The MSU men's and women's basketball team kicked off their exhibition season this week. The men's team handily beat Northwood 85-57, while the women battled against Saginaw Valley State University Thursday night, beating them easily 74-35. The women's team played without redshirt freshman Madison Williams, who will miss the entire season after tearing her ACL in practice this past week. She'll undergo surgery soon and hopes to recover within 4 to 6 months. The men's team will travel to Ramstein Air Base in Germany to take on UConn in their season opener November 9th. The MSU football team is coming off a win last week against Wisconsin, making the team 5-4 heading into today's game. Many Spartan fans say this season has been a letdown for a team ranked 13 in the preseason. But after MSU's heartbreaking loss to in-state rival Michigan, Coach Mark D'Antonio said there are many positives to take away from this season so far.
I look at the fact that our football team plays extremely hard, and at the end of the day, they give everything they got. And, that's good enough for me, the coach. That's not good enough for everyone all the time, and we critique what we do, but you have to look at the effort that we get, and you have to acknowledge the effort.
MSU junior Sarah Kroll is the Big Ten cross-country athlete of the year. Her first-place performance earned her first All-Big Ten honors. Kroll's teammates redshirt senior Rachel McFarland and freshman Caleb Reinhard are the Big Ten Sportsmanship Award winners. The team is traveling back to Madison, Wisconsin for their 2012 NCAA Great Lakes Regional Championships next week. That's what's happening in sports. I'm Lauren Gentili. Back to the desk.
Thanks, Lauren. Well, costumes, candy, and kids can only mean one thing this time of year. The city of East Lansing hosted its annual Great Pumpkin Walk. Kids and even some adults dressed up to trick-or-treat down Grand River, receiving candy, coupons, and lots of smiles. The Wild Goose Inn was transformed into the Land of Oz. Kids were able to walk through, feed carrots to the livestock, and even meet the characters.
We've come out the last couple years, and it's a good time. A lot of people, a lot of nice costumes. People are friendly. It's been nice, good for the kids, and what a beautiful day.
Well, crowds were normal than larger this year, according to the city, but that was expected because of the unseasonably warm temperatures. More than 50 degrees in Lansing. Businesses participated in the event.
It was actually more than 50 businesses, but
okay.
That's all right. But it was also very warm. It was a nice one. Well, that's our show for tonight. We leave you now with more from Cook Recital Hall and the All-American Concert. Have a great night.
Good night.